Hi everyone, I'm Bakhtawar. I'm a Pakistani booktuber. I do book reviews and bookcasts, and today I am doing a really short review on the well-known and famous The White Tiger by Aravind Adiga. This also won the Man Booker Prize in 2008. Not that that's the only justification for reading a great novel. The White Tiger is a story of a youngish sort of man named Balram Halwai, who is the son of a rickshaw puller, and he hails from one of the poorest villages in India, a place that he refers to as the Darkness. Obviously juxtaposing it by calling sort of city life the light. And the entire novel is written as a letter to a Chinese premier who's supposed to be visiting the country, so it's like an elaborate, kind of really funny letter. So he dictates his meteoric rise to power to at least a class of respectable business owners, and he talks about his own acumen and his natural entrepreneurial skills which have helped him get to where he is. Also an unfathomable quality that is very unique in him, which constitutes him to sort of, he calls himself the White Tiger, a creature that is so unique, so rare, that he can only exist once in a generation. So Balram has always had a really impoverished life. He's been malnourished. He was taken out of school at a really young age so that the family could marry off one of his cousins. He suspects that his innocent but eccentric mother was killed by her in-laws in a dubious sort of in some dubious arrangement, because he says that there's this line in the novel, let me remember what it is. Her death was so grand that I know that her life must have been very miserable. So Balram has sort of spent his entire life as a sort of animal. His father, the rickshaw puller, says that my whole life I've been a donkey my whole life, and I want that at least one son of mine should live like a man. And then his poor father kind of dies on the floor of a government hospital because he has TB, tuberculosis. And it's a hospital where the doctor sort of comes once a week, but that week the doctor didn't come, and so all of these, it's a really there's this terrible anger inside Balram, because he's more than just somebody from the village. He's obviously deeply intelligent and very observant, even though he refers to himself often as having a half-baked mind. But even then, he's kind of, he's a notch above everybody else. And he remembers the time that some politician came to his school and said that, you fellow, you're a white tiger, don't you become like the rest of them. So I think subconsciously, when he thinks about it, it's like, if you are to be an animal, why not be the most magnificent and unique animal that there is, at least in this part of the world. An animal that in some ways, theoretically, is worth more than a human being, hence the White Tiger. So while the novel is a skillful commentary on many disturbing and very real and depressing issues that affect not just India but most of South Asia, India, Pakistan, all of it. You have police brutality, corruption, feudal land ownership, bonded labor, the vicious cycle of poverty, lack of education, lack of employment opportunities. So the novel obviously greatly touches upon all of these themes, still manages to retain a very delicious kind of dark humor so that you're always entertained. No matter what the writer is talking about, it's always funny. A critic said of Aravind Adiga that he sort of renders an inauthentic account of the way life is in India, because the writer, he sort of grew up in Australia, I believe, for the most part. But I think it's a pretty convincing narrative, because Adiga focuses on many really small details, that make you just instantly see what he's talking about. Twitches, glitches in the Matrix, that's what that reminds me of. Twitches of somebody's face, the scent of their clothes, a small glimmer of expression on their face, things like that, which make you feel like he's either really observed this in great, extensive detail, but at any rate, I did not find it inauthentic at all. So whoever that critic is wrong. So Balram's big break, kind of the turning point in the novel, is when he becomes the driver for the son of a feudal landowner. In fact, the same feudal landowner who owns, I think, part of the entire village that he comes from. And for him, it's a real step up in the world, because now he's a driver, he gets to live a respectable life. In some ways, he becomes completely infatuated with his employer, because obviously he's, his name is Mr. Ashok. He's been educated abroad, he looks nice, smells nice. He has this Americanized wife who Balram calls Pinky Madam. But despite having all of these, really glamorous qualities, Ashok is kind of essentially emasculated by both his family, his father, and the wife, because he doesn't know how to stand up for himself. He doesn't have any of the qualities that people, or at least Balram, associates with feudal landowners, which he thinks is a sort of weakness. So over time, Ashok's many failings and shortcomings, they start coming to light, obviously, because he spends a lot of time with his employer. So when that happens, it's not acceptable to Balram, because, you know, he has this guy up on a pedestal, right? So it's not acceptable. The people that we idolize to that extent, maybe in some ways they don't have the right to fall below our expectations. They don't have the right to be maybe who they truly are, because they have to uphold, you know, that image that we have of them. Balram is very much, he wants to look like this person. He wants to be this person. In some ways he wants to possess his employer, sort of become him if possible. So it's a very strange kind of dynamic. So he kills him. And the killing itself is kind of described as an act of possession, because you're never closer to someone than in the moment when you kill them, and in that moment you know them better perhaps than anyone else. In a way, in a strange way, this is all how the murder is described in the novel. In a strange way, the person that is murdered belongs to the killer in a way that he'll never belong to anyone else. So yeah. But no matter what Balram does, you never end up disliking him. He's funny, he's kind of cute. You always like him. That's the power of the writing, rather. And the funny thing is, he always knows what the right thing to do is. Without a doubt, he knows what the right thing to do is. He often says things like, oh, it would have been, the honorable thing to do would have been this. Or, had I been a half-decent human being, I would have done this. But then he just goes and does the opposite thing. So all in all, it's a masterpiece. It's pretty brilliant. I really loved it. And it's a good one if you want to cry and laugh at the same time. It's relatively sort of short, not really. 310-ish pages. Give it a read if you haven't. I feel like the whole world has already read it. I mean, but if you haven't, highly recommend it. Take care of yourself. I'll see you next time.